Buddy, I'm really excited about this interview. This is part of our series, Candidate Discussions, and we like to focus on folks that are running in the South Austin jurisdiction, or at least part of their district, lays on top of the jurisdiction for the club. And so in this interview, I'm very excited. We're going to be interviewing Rob McCarthy, who's running in House District 47. And there are some parts in South Austin, and currently uncontested in the Republican primary. So that's exciting. And we're here to support him and his efforts. And in doing that, we're going to get to know Rob a little bit better. So with that being said, Rob, thank you for being here on your very busy schedule, and give everybody sort of a brief introduction to who you are, where you came from, and then we'll get into some of the details later.
Yeah, sure. Sounds great. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. So I was, not originally from Texas. I was born and raised in California, a town called Bakersfield, about 100 miles north of Los Angeles. Went to USC, University of Southern California. Graduated in 2006. Worked for a few months in the county roads department on transportation issues. That spent a year in the California State Assembly, and then 5 years working for a member of Congress before then I left there and went back to school, earned an MBA, and then moved to Sydney, Australia, where I was lived there for 2 years, selling software for a company that does web filtering and device management for K through 12 schools. And so then moved to Austin in 2016 when that company relocated, moved out of California and came to Texas. You probably never heard of that before. A company leaving California, coming to Texas. Totally new thing. So moved to Austin, bought a home in Circle C, and so have lived there since. And so now I'm no longer with that company. I'm doing some independent consulting, and also in the process of opening up a distillery out on Fitzhugh Road. So got a couple projects going on.
That's great, and there's a couple things that I want to pinpoint in there. You have small business acumen, obviously. You have federal experience, you have state experience. So with all that combined, kind of your own very personal amalgam of experience and life experience and speaking with people, why now have you decided to put throw your hat in the ring, so to speak, and run for this seat in this area? Why is this important to you right now? What inspired you to run?
Well, I had that start in politics and then left, and have now come back to it. It was back in 2019. It started in 18 and then continued into 19. It was when I was working for that company that does web filtering and device management for K through 12 schools. I got involved with some of the school safety legislation that was going on. I don't know if you remember, we had a pretty big, school shooting in Texas in 2018. There was another one in Florida that year. And so it was, being part of the discussion. It's, whenever you see something like that happen, there will be a lot of folks who make an immediate call for gun control, but the position that that I was pushing, in that position is that you can accomplish a lot of the same school safety objectives through monitoring of student web traffic and alerting for those issues. Today. Well, not specifically today, because today is a holiday, but tomorrow in a school, for example, if a student were to do a search for, pornographic content, that search would be flagged, and the student would be contacted, disciplined, assessed by administrators, whatever. And so it was the request was to treat searches for self-harm and violence kind of with the same level of criteria of restriction as you teach, as you treat these pornographic searches. It's not it's not like a thought police kind of thing, like somebody's going to be arrested because of an inappropriate search. I mean, it could be that a search was done for a purely academic nature, and it's possible that once it was flagged, the administrators would look at it and determine, oh, actually that's not a concern. But if the student who's who has seemed depressed, has also, been talking about killing themselves, is also doing searches related for killing themselves. In a lot of instances, that predates a suicide attempt. So it's just to, contact that student or, inform their parents. So it was in that drive, I spoke to actually members of Congress, and then spoke to, so that was in 2018 that I spoke to members of Congress. And in 2019, I spoke to members of the Texas legislature, trying to get that in the Texas school safety bill as well. And then, so Vicki Goodwin, who was my representative at the time, I called and, and emailed multiple times. I was unable to even get a meeting. It's, and that's like, that's ridiculous. And it's, well, Representative Goodwin knows how to handle school safety. And, and it's her solution, if you remember, was the, require that guns be kept in locked boxes. That's right, because teenagers don't know how to use a lock. So it was frustrating for me, and so that was kind of what got me involved, in the local politics, certainly. And then, we tried, it was already, had been working with Austin Young Republicans at that point, was part of the refounding of the chapter here in 2018. And then, kind of as continued that involvement. And, we tried to beat her in 2020, got really close, but, didn't quite make it. And so then, I saw it this time, now that the lines were redrawn. And I think it's a heavily Democratic district, to the point that many Republicans just say, oh, okay, don't bother. But I look at that district and I don't see that as a don't bother. It's not a district where you can just say, oh, turn out the Republicans and win. I keep saying that, that I'm going to build a coalition of, Republicans, independent libertarians, and, moderate Democrats. And with kind of that group, that's majority in, in the kind of the West Austin suburbs area.
Yeah. Oh, there's so much good stuff in there. So just to
gotcha. Sorry, you get me started talking and I'll just go. So
yeah, no, this is great. For this is so people can understand who you are.
Sure.
It seems like there's a theme here, and that theme is that this is largely built out of a frustration. You saw some real world examples of how things could be better, and you contacted the person you thought could help make that happen, and you got crickets. That would be frustrating.
Yeah.
Also, I want to highlight the fact that you have a very unique and fresh perspective to not just politics, but to life because of your experiences. I don't know if people know about some of that stuff in school districts where they can ping and cite and reference keyword searches and stuff on their it's not their database, but if somebody's like logged into the Wi-Fi or on the school platform. And I think it's good that I think it's really good that you highlight that stuff's being monitored, but not in a thought police type of way. It's legitimate. If somebody is doing a research project on depression, it doesn't mean they're liable to necessarily harm themselves, but we should always take those precautions. And so I really like that you have real world experience to real solutions, not just we're going to lock up guns. You have real world experience on how to actually combat some of those problems. So speaking of issues, what are some of the things that you are hearing as you talk to people in the district? What are some of the things that are bubbling up that people are dealing with right now?
Well, it's there's a lot of frustration, definitely a lot of frustration about the situation on the border. There's a lot of property tax is a big issue. People are frustrated by the amount they're paying in property tax. At the same time, they're frustrated by a lack of infrastructure investments. So there's there are people who at the same time want to pay less in property tax, and then also have more in infrastructure. And it's nice, but yes, there is a balance there. That's a lot of it. I've been to so far in door knocking, I just crossed the 1,100 mark. So I've got a pretty good sample set. I've just started this year, and I had to take 2 weeks off because I got sick. I got that COVID-19 thing that's going around. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's infected a fair amount of folks around. So
that's what I hear. So speaking about policy, you've been around on a congressional level. You've been on the private sector level. You have a couple of big issues here. You have obviously the border that you mentioned, property taxes, infrastructure. Property taxes is a big one. Let me ask you, if or when you are elected, policy-wise, what do you think are some good policy directions? Of course, this stuff has to be fleshed out. So I'm not going to require you to make any definitive statements. That would be disingenuous. But what are some policy directions you'd like to take the district, and ultimately, because you're part of the state legislature, what direction would you like to help have the state go in terms of property taxes in general, infrastructure? Infrastructure is a big word that means multiple different things, and the border. What are some directions policy-wise you'd like to take that?
Right. You'll see. I've worked on a fair amount of campaigns. In definitely at the congressional level, and a lot of times you'll hear the person talking about the way they're going to change the tax code in the first year once they're in office, and I'm going to do A, B, and C, in my first week there, and it's like, oh, really? Well, that's not quite how it works. But one thing that that I would be able to do, and that I would like to do, is that by as a legislator, you have a lot of ability to start conversations, certainly. And I think there are some areas where I think introducing legislation, if certainly starts a conversation, and then if that legislation doesn't move forward, you can then say, okay, well, why is this not happening? For example, there's there's a segments of the city that want to be able to disannex. They were annexed kind of against their will. So like Lost Creek, so letting legislation that'll let them just, do a vote and leave if they want, reverse kind of the grab that was had. Just sort of kind of restoring sort of a, limited government, people's will approach. Then I think school choice is another one. The ability to all children in Texas kind of have an entitlement to, to education. That's, it's something we guarantee them. And if, if they don't want to participate in the state system, if the family's like, some sort of private school option, I think they deserve to have a portion of that funding go towards that. And also, I think in the content of education as well, what I brought up about that, the using the web traffic for signs of self-harm and violence. I guess this is a part of my, politics, government, heritage. So, as soon as, when I was bringing this, to legislators and to, to our school customers, they didn't want to see it. It's like they didn't want to deal with it. It's like, oh no, I don't want to deal with this. And, one, at a school, they were saying, okay, well, I don't want to be shown this, because what if I see this alert and then this kid goes and, actually does something, then I'll be held liable. And it's like, so you'd rather just not know at all? Why not just unplug all the fire alarms then? So what I did is I did a poll of parents. I hired a polling company, did a full-on professional poll, and found, asked parents, do you think these signs for self-harm and violence should be treated with the same level of discretion as these, as these inappropriate content searches? And there I got a 93% approval. And I don't know how much polling you've done, but it's hard to get 93% approval for anything. So, so what I think we should do then with that is say, okay, well, this policy, instead of just having this be something that's enacted, this can be something that, the requirement is that it's a forced vote of the PTA. And if the PTA approves it, then it has to be done. So I think that's a way to implement it, in a way that would then have, parental buy-in too. So then it's not, I'm dictating something. It's, look, we're letting everybody decide, but I think let everybody decide and they're going to make the right decision.
Wow. So there's a very key component to what you're saying here. And then I wrote it down: government back to the people. You mentioned limited government before, and running polls with parents and giving the power to the PTA. Let me ask you a question along those lines. If elected, would you be running polls with constituents? Would you be, obviously the doors would be a lot more open with you than your opponent. But I mean, would you be that active with your constituents, you think?
I don't think it would be the kind of thing where you'd have to actually run a formal poll. I mean, just just the frequent contact would be enough. I mean, this was, I had to run a poll because, at that point, I mean, I was just, an employee for a company. I had no way to contact multiple, parents, aside, like I wasn't even a parent at that time. So that was kind of the only way I had to do it. But I think, so the answer to the question, no, I don't think I would have to actually hire, a formal polling company. I think just, interactions and, your kind of the phone calls and mail you receive, that kind of functions as a poll, of its own.
Yeah. And I can also see you doing intentional outreach events and stuff.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you got to definitely have to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
And certainly if there's an issue where people are contacting you on, and if they're contacting you, if it's a call, and, it's one thing for a form letter, working for, in the work previously, I mean, you get thousands and thousands and thousands of form letters. People don't even know they're sending the form letters sometimes. But it's like, if you're receiving multiple letters that are clearly not form letters, they're clearly written and, written by a person, and, there's proper grammar, and it's like this person is trying to send you a message. They have a legitimate request. Pay attention,
Yeah, well, and I think that leads me to my next question. You kind of established this from the very beginning of this discussion, but I think that would be one of the cornerstones of what would make you or what will make you different than the current incumbent. So let's talk about outside party politics. What are some things, some definite things where you see that you are different than your opponent?
Um, well, yeah, that one that we talked about. Yeah, I mean the being in contact with with constituents certainly, and I mean outside of party politics, I mean it would be that I'd be working with the majority, trying to actually get things done for the district, and that's not just party politics thing. I mean, yes, it's that I would be a member of the majority, so I would have more access to be in the room during discussions. Yes, that goes without saying, and yeah, that's party politics. That's how it works. But if you look across the state, I mean, there are Democrats who have been in office for a long time, who work with the majority and get things done. They don't just throw up policy ideas from California and New York and watch their bills die in committee and talk about, oh, here's all these great ideas I have, but I can't get it through committee. Sure wish we had a Democrat majority. It's I won't just be shouting in the wind. I'll be working to have actual accomplishments.
Yeah, and I think sometimes a lot of, especially those that are not in the majority, tend to use that term phrase as an out. It's like, well, I'm not part of the majority, so I can't get anything done. But here are the great ideas I had. It's like, well, did you try to work? I think that goes on both sides of the aisle, regardless of who's in power. But I think that's refreshing for folks that you're willing to. I hate to use the coin phrase, reach across the aisle, but that's going to be necessary. And being open to ideas and being part of a majority here in Texas is going to be important to get stuff done for the district. In terms of that, what are some of the things that you would like to see done for the people in House District 47 specifically?
What, like on top of those
Yeah,
bills?
something a little bit more closer to home. What are some things that they're needing that you're hearing in the community? Not the overarching infrastructure and border stuff, but what are some of the things closer to their backyard, so to speak?
Probably it's more there's a lot of frustration with with some of the city's policies, particularly on the homeless issue. This was something that I found out about just this week, and I guess there was a homeless camp in the green belt in Circle C. I hadn't even known that, and so it was only going door to door that I found out about that. So I think that's probably it's the homeless issue, the police defunding as well. But the homeless camping issue, I think is probably the biggest kind of close to home thing that's bothering people here.
Yeah, and you bring, I mean, the legislature in the last session or stack of sessions brought forth some legislation around that to make things a little bit more strict on cities. And so would you champion more stuff like that, or are you
yeah, well, somehow there's still homeless camps around here.
Yeah.
So
yeah. But do you think the policy discussion is around penalizing cities, or working more to bring services to those people? What direction do you see that?
Well, I think reducing the overall number is good. There was Justin Berry is actually one of the ones who really educated me on it. It was just it was a post that he did a while ago. This was I'm going to say maybe in 2019, 2020. But he talked about, homeless problem really as four groups. That you have kind of the substance abuse, the drug addicts, the mentally ill, the truly desperate, and then you have people that are just choosing a lifestyle. And then you have the criminal element kind of, exploiting, all four groups. So it's really, each of those groups, and it's not so simple that everybody, fits precisely into, one of those four categories. But, addressing each of those, four groups and, working to get just the overall number down, I think I will help a lot.
Yeah, I think that's a good approach. I think it's a well-rounded, realistic approach. There's not just one size fits all.
Right.
And that's something that we're seeing the federal government want to do. They want to do, HUD has a housing first model. And I think, it doesn't work. And I think your approach to seeing the different groups and how they kind of coincide with each other and how to bring services and stuff to them is going to be really important in the legislature. So thank you for that answer. It's a good answer. So in kind of closing here, what can you tell people that maybe aren't sure about you yet?
Well, that's kind of the main, objective of my going door to door. There's people out there who, who believe in the things that we believe in, maybe haven't been Republican for a while, or, maybe haven't voted for a Republican ever. And, I'm going just door to door, trying to, be, respectful and talk about issues. I'm trying to show that, hey, look, I'm not Donald Trump if you hate Donald Trump. So, and just trying to, kind of build a bridge that way. And if people who, actually, want to work to, build a better Austin, build a better Texas, I think that we'll have a lot in common. And, I think that, I think that I have the potential to earn them as a supporter. Now, there are people who just, are going to see the word Republican and, write that off, and, they're never going to support me ever. And, according to, again, did some polling. I think that's about 47% of the district. So I got my work cut out for me. But it's a lot of door knocking, a lot of meeting people, and that's about it. There's no secret formula.
Right. Perfect. So how can people get involved? What is the easiest way for people to get involved in the campaign?
Well, I've got volunteer signups through my website, McCarthyforTexas.com. And then it's, there's an email contact through there as well. That's I'd be happy for, any door knocking assistance. That's my plan every weekend, now till November, for the most part. For folks who, don't really want to, don't like that idea of going, door to door. There's certainly other ways. We can talk about, maybe, event hosting, maybe, hosting a, dinner or, cocktail happy hour or something. And, I can come, talk and, meet people. We could do it that way. That's great. I've done a couple of those so far. And there's, down the stretch, there may be other ways too. So any assistance, anybody who's willing to help, I'll find a way for you to help.
Yeah. And with that, 47% difference, you know, in people that you pretty much know are not going to vote for you just based on the R next to your name.
Yeah.
You need every single person that can possibly. And so don't be discouraged to reach out. So that's McCarthy 4. Is it the number 4? Or it's FOR.
FOR.
Okay.
McCarthy FORTEXAS.
All right. So
McCarthy 4 Texas.
Got it. And there's an email, and you can sign up that
way.
This
contact form is through there. Yeah.
Perfect. And yeah, block walking is not as challenging as people think. It's actually a lot of fun, and especially if you live in the area, if you live in Circle C or any part of House District 47, you can also, in the details, I'll link a map to that.
Oh, great. Yeah. That'll help a lot. Yeah. Because the boundaries have changed and people don't realize.
They have. And so if anybody watching this, you know, is in any of those areas, but just wants to walk their neighborhood, you know, you're going to run into friends, you're going to run into neighbors, you're going to run into people that you already know. So it's really not as hard or maybe scary as it may seem. And I recently was block walking for a candidate and ran into somebody that was a little rough around the edges. He had every reason to be. He was a Vietnam vet. And after breaking down some of those initial barriers, I had a lovely conversation with this guy. So don't be afraid to reach out through his website. I mean, it's very powerful. And this is what I always tell volunteers anytime I'm either on a campaign or people that are getting involved. I always tell them the next door you knock could be the vote that wins the election. And so reach out to his website. If you're not able to block walk for whatever reason, host an event. You know, maybe do some phone banking for him later on, and, you know, stuff. Maybe there's a myriad of ways that you can be involved. So, thank you first off for signing the dotted line and running Texas. It's, you know, you put a lot on the line to do that, and we appreciate that. And second, thank you for taking the time out of your day to speak with me.
Absolutely,
appreciate it. Awesome. Well, great luck to you in the campaign. And we look forward to seeing how you do.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Bye.